Firstly, let me thank you for taking the time to talk to NATO Channel TV. Do you feel that Afghanistan now is a different place than when you arrived?
It's very different, actually. In the period of time, 19 months or so, the Afghan National Security Forces have come a very long way. We've built the force almost to its complete end strength. We're very close to 352. We recovered much of the U.S. surge force that was here. In fact, we recovered all of it, but much of it in the fighting season of 2012. And the Afghan National Security Forces began to move into the lead a year ago. And they're increasingly moving into the lead, and they will be in the lead formally across the entire country by the spring of this year. So a great deal has changed. I think the security situation is better. In terms of the fighting season last year, the posture of the Taliban with regard to the activity with which they're engaged occurs farther and farther from the population all the time, which plays out with the population feeling more secure. Now, we've got work to do. We got work to do. But in the 19 months, when I first arrived here in July of 2011, I could not have imagined that we would be doing today routine core level operations across Afghanistan. And that is in fact basically the rule of thumb these days.
There have been some tense times in the last year. What have been your biggest challenges?
Well, to keep the campaign on track. You know, this is an extraordinary moment, frankly, for not just Afghanistan, but for NATO, for the alliance. 50 countries, biggest wartime coalition in history, have come together in Afghanistan and pledged the blood of their children and the dollars of their treasury to give Afghanistan a chance. First and foremost, ensuring that those 50 countries are content with the campaign, supportive of the campaign, is very important to me. So that's not a challenge, but it's an obligation I have as the commander to ensure that our alliance is comfortable with the direction. Building the ANSF into a credible professional force has been another challenge. It's not been a problem, but it has been a challenge. And when the average Afghan private goes from the training field to the battlefield and then stays there for years, it puts enormous stresses and demands on this young force. So we've done all we can to assist this force in getting up on its feet, and there's still more work to be done there. And then I think, as your question implies, we've had some real moments of tension. We call them meteor strikes, in fact, and I don't mean to sound glib, but the term implies that the event came out of nowhere. We didn't expect it. It wasn't something that was foreseeable. The urination video that went viral, where we had ISAF troops urinating on the Taliban dead, the inadvertent burning of religious materials in Quran, in Parwan, the terrible shootings that occurred in Panjwai, all of those things stressed the relationship, stressed the campaign to their limit. But none of those events broke the campaign, and I attribute that to the strength of our relationships with the Afghan people, and I attribute that, I think, to our sense together of a common purpose and a common future, and we were able to account for these stresses at the same moment.
You called insider attacks the signature attack of the insurgent. Does the continuing threat of these undermine the progress of the Afghan National Security Forces?
Well, it is a real challenge to us. Every single one of these is a tragedy. Every one is a tragedy. And I won't be satisfied, and I can speak confidently since I'm less than 24 hours from changing command, that my successor will not be satisfied as long as a single one of these attacks is occurring. They create strategic risk, frankly, for the entire campaign. What we have to do is take those measures necessary to protect our force, partner with the Afghans so that they understand that they have an obligation to work with us in this regard, and we then partner with them to help them. What's happening here is the Afghan National Security Forces, to build their capacity, can only do that now if we partner with them and if we're embedded with them. The enemy understands this. Every day the ANSF gets stronger, they get a day weaker. And if they can split us along the seam, where we come together, where we make them stronger by insider attacks, if they can split us apart, they can have strategic effect. Now, is it strategic effect on the battlefield, or is it strategic effect in capitals? It's strategic effect with respect to the coalition and the alliance and in capitals. And so we have embraced the insider threat as, in fact, an enemy threat. And the actions we have taken have sought to protect our own forces, in partnership with the Afghans, who receive actually as many attacks as we do. They have nearly as many casualties from their own people attacking them in an insider context as we do. So we have joined the Afghans in a very close partnership to take those measures necessary to protect the forces overall, and within our own force to take the measures necessary to protect ourselves. It's everything from training back in the home nation, to training just before they arrive in theater, to training in theater, and then taking all those measures necessary for protection.
The cost of the war has been high. Many nations have lost their soldiers here. What can you point to show the world their investment's been worth it?
Well, there's been tremendous accomplishment. And it's not just about what has happened in the past. I think it's what's going to happen in the future. And recently I had a lunch with a number of distinguished ladies out of Afghan civil society and out of the parliament. And I think without exception, while they have concerns, they also celebrate the enormous gains that have been made. So when you look across Afghanistan and you see millions of children going to school now, where very few went to school under the Taliban regime, 40 to 50% of them are young ladies, where you see a new class of Afghan citizens, the youth who are educated, who desire to remain Afghan, who want to stay in this country to become productive contributors to the long term. That is a real accomplishment we could not have imagined just 5 to 6 years ago. The other good news is this country sits on top of trillions of dollars of natural resources. That makes it unique in the world. And as I tell people, there are two sources of wealth in this country. You've got that which is underground, and increasingly you have that which is the human wealth of this country. And as we continue to educate the young Afghan population, who see themselves first and foremost as an Afghan and not necessarily with a tribal affiliation or an ethnic affiliation, as you see that increasing over time, that is, I think, the signature outcome of this campaign. An Afghanistan that has its eyes fixed on the future, because it can. It's an Afghanistan that can send young girls to school, who can grow up to be lawyers or doctors or engineers. It's an Afghanistan that can provide security to itself. It's an Afghanistan that ultimately can exploit those natural resources in the context of a democracy to become the central power in Central Asia. And if you have to wonder whether it was worth it or not, you know, the empty chairs around the tables, the troops who will never recover from their wounds, it's worth it. And when I talk to the parents, when I write letters home, it's worth it. It was a great price paid by these families and by these precious countries who came from all over the world to make a difference in Afghanistan. They have made a difference. They have been successful. It's not just about today, though. They have given Afghanistan a possibility for a bright future. That has made this campaign worth it.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's been my pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.